everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am super excited to have you guys all back. We are starting a new series, or we're kind of continuing an old series. This is Behind the Lens, but we're calling it Behind the Lens Shorts. And I am joined by my co-host moving forward. This is going to be a once a month series where we kind of just dive into the nuances of being a freelance videographer, photographer, creative, the nuances behind the business of it all, the lifestyle that comes along with it, the implications that it has in your life. But I am joined by my good friend, Quinn Murphy, all the way in New York City. She is one of my closest friends in the industry. We literally have once a week venting sessions just to figure out this crazy world that we live in. But Quinn and I, we both actually work with Alicia Keys together. We make a lot of her social YouTube content. Quinn shoots, edits, ideates, conceptualizes, directs, and she's just an overall badass. We have 10 years worth of experience combined, and we're just here to share some of the knowledge that we've gained, in this industry. So if you're looking to be a videographer, photographer, freelancer, hopefully we can spread some wisdom and you can kind of feel like included or part of a community that kind of goes through the same things that you go through as you progress in your career. So with that being said, Quinn, how are you?
Good. How are you? Glad to be co-hosting.
Right. Yeah, I know. We can pretend like we didn't talk for like half an hour before this. We were just planning.
Yeah, planning very in depth.
All this. Yeah, but Quinn, tell us, for anyone who may not know who you are, you've already been on this channel before, and if you want to hear Quinn's full story of how she got started as a videographer, her interview is going to be linked right here in this corner, so go check that out if you want to get some more insight into who Quinn Murphy is. But Quinn, just tell us a little bit about yourself and, what we're going to be talking about today.
Thanks for the intro. Appreciate it. I have been creating content for probably like 5 years. Like you said, we both have 5 years under our belt. I shoot, edit, do a lot of stuff for brands, for people, work with Alicia Keys, a few other fun, exciting stuff. And then I make little fun branded content for social with loops and stop motion and all that.
Just stuff.
It's very fun.
Just stuff. You know what I mean?
Just stuff. Just good old stuff.
Yeah,
good old content.
I know. I'm glad you're underselling this because on top of this, I'm layering, all your work and how amazing you are, so people can understand who you're getting some schooling from. You know what I mean? It's important.
Okay, we're the knowledge bearers.
Absolutely.
Sharing the knowledge.
Always.
So I'm excited because I think we want to start this one off by what you need to know when you're starting out as a creative, as a videographer, maybe a photographer in this field that you and I are in. Kind of stuff that we would have told our younger selves is how I'm looking at it. And I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of stuff to unpack that's very helpful and wish that I could have told myself.
Where do you even start? You know what I mean? I think that's the hardest thing. And there's so many off the top. If you one day decide hey, I want to create content for a living, there's already so many things to unpack there. I know for me, my experience, I come from a minority household, a single mother, Latina woman, and she had zero clue what being a videographer was, or you could make money off of it. And I think that doesn't even just apply to just being a minority. I think every parent just kind of wants the best for their child, and a lot of it comes with the bottom line is just money. It's are you making a living off of this? I don't know, Quinn, if you had this experience, but my mom was well, how do you make money off of this? And for the longest time, I wasn't making money. You know what I mean? It's really hard to start making money in this industry, and you kind of have to rough it out for a year or two before you can actually start making livable money. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would have told myself is to have a lot of patience, because it takes so long. I mean, there's months where I would go without work, and it would just be how do I get from A to B? There's no form, even this industry that you and I are in, kind of this singular content creator who wears a lot of hats and, creates stuff from start to finish is so new. There's not a handbook. It's very different than the film industry where there's a bit more of structure to it. Even I am still figuring it out and how to navigate it. And, but the biggest thing I would say is it's going to just take a lot of time. There's going to be a lot of wins. There's going to be a lot of like losses and confusion and that sort of thing. And hopefully we can help like alleviate some of that confusion and figuring it out.
Something that I've always preached on this channel and like is just, things take time, and like you can't get too high or get too low, because you're not always going to get that dream job that you want, or someone might offer you a dream job and like last minute be like, oh, actually, like it's canceled, like we're not actually doing this anymore. So it's like you can never get too high, never get too low, and just consistency is the most important thing. Like, if you feel like one day like you got knocked down, like just keep it going the next day, because there's always something to do. There's always going to be more work out there. There's always videos or photos to take or to make, so you really just got to keep on going. And I think Quinn and I came up with a few actionable items for you to implement in your career path. Like, we're coming at this from, if you're just starting out and you don't know where to get started and you want to follow being a videographer or photographer as a career path, what are some things that you can do?
The first tip would be to identify what you want to shoot. Don't be afraid to try everything, especially when you're starting out, because you might be surprised at like what you like, and also more importantly, what you don't like. So instead of kind of doing something for a long time that you're not that into and you kind of get pigeonholed into one thing, and at that point it's really hard to switch out of it. It's good in the beginning to try a bunch of things. And like, for example, I realized really early on that I didn't enjoy shooting weddings because I shot a few weddings, and I did not like it. But now I know, like, avoid weddings and double down on something that I actually get inspired and motivated by.
It's interesting that you mentioned weddings. I feel like so many creatives start out in weddings for whatever reason. I mean, I think like there's always weddings. It's like easily accessible. If you own a camera and you know someone who's getting married, I feel like they're going to reach out to you and be like, hey, can you shoot this wedding? You know? And it's consistent money. It's pretty good money. Weddings, they do come with like a good sizable budget depending on who it is. You know what I mean? I, fortunately, have never had to shoot a wedding because I knew that wasn't for me.
Wow, lucky.
I know, super blessed.
See, you knew.
But yeah, I think like that's a great point. Identifying what you want to shoot is super key, because then you can kind of narrow in on what you really want to do in this career path. Let's say one day you want to shoot features, or you want to shoot, TV shows or commercials, or if you want to be like a sports videographer, fashion photographer, fashion videographer, music videographer, concert videographer, whatever it is. Once you identify what you think you would want to do, then you got to start working your way towards that. So for example, let's say you want to be a sports videographer or photographer. If you're in high school or you're in college, like some things you can do is like go to your school is going to more than not have some sort of sports team, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, volleyball, whatever. You can ask your school just to shoot content for free. If you have a camera, if you have an iPhone, whatever, just like go shoot and start building a portfolio and seeing if you even like it, because you may not even like all the things that come with being a sports videographer. That means walking around a ton, sometimes being in the natural elements. It might be super hot, it might be super cold, it might be windy, rainy, whatever. So you may not like that about it. If you want to be in fashion, more likely than not, whatever town you're in, whether that's in Europe, Asia, North America, South America, whatever, there's going to be someone in your town who's starting a clothing line. So offer, to make videos for them for free. If you're just starting out, go build a fashion portfolio based on your local clothing lines, business, and like make their social media videos, because I think that's a great way just to start a portfolio. I think at the end of it, a lot of it is just like identifying what you want to shoot, but also just starting. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
like
that's it.
We have some, even now at our level, I think like it's like we come up with so many ideas, but then it's like, oh man, like you get exhausted just by the conceptualization of it, and then you kind of like just start putting it off, and it's like you never even get to it.
Yeah, I think take advantage of how excited you are to enter the field. Like, when I was fortunate enough to discover it when I was young, like making videos and like that sort of content. So I made a bunch of stuff growing up, filmed a bunch of stuff, and like that's where I got a lot of my experience. But being able to have so much energy and excitement to like enter something, take advantage of that, and just like create a bunch of content.
Just get started, identify what you want to do. And I think this is a good segue into our second point, which is just make a bunch of content. Like, you really need to hone in on your skills and what you want to do. That could be just identifying or watching other creators' videos, whether that's me, whether that's Quinn, whether that's literally anyone who you see on Instagram working with, whoever you want to work with, see how they're doing it. And I think a big thing about that is just, you want to practice, but when you're starting out, it might be difficult to have your own style. So, if that means copying your favorite creators, like videos and editing style, whatever it is, I personally don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think, copying is the biggest form of flattery, but ultimately, once you can master sort of their editing skills and their shooting skills, like, you'll learn a lot through that process. But at a certain point, you have to kind of pivot and make it your own. You know what I mean? Like, you can only copy what I do so much or what Quinn does so much before you have to start making your own. You don't want to just be a carbon copy of what someone else is, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's really at the core of it, learning the skill, right? So if you watch someone's edit and they do this cool editing effect or trick, and then you learn that effect, like you recreate it in your own time, you have that skill permanently. So now you can go and apply it to your projects, change it in a certain way. So it's about like developing those basic skills that will eventually lead you to creating your own style. So definitely rip people off.
All the time. But
rip me off.
But do it tastefully, you know what I mean? We know
Tasteful,
if you're copying someone, if you're copying Quinn,
yeah, we know.
We're going to know, and everyone else will know. So don't try it.
If you hit an Oreo with a hammer into make three little mini Oreos, I'm coming for you.
No, literally.
And your family.
Yeah. We will sue you.
And then the next thing I would say is the big importance of networking. So something I wish I did early on was connecting with everyone and anyone. I did not do enough networking when I first started out, but connecting with not only like potential clients, but also potential creators, which I didn't realize was so important, to not just like try and get jobs, but to develop relationships with people who are going through this industry. And to this day, like the coolest jobs, Alicia Keys, like those sort of jobs that I have had the most fun on and have enjoyed the most have come from fellow creatives.
Networking, depending on where you're coming from, or just, I think the word networking for the longest time, and even still today, has had a very negative connotation. I think people think of networking events like if you're going to a networking event in order to meet someone because you want to get something. So for me, I don't really view things as networking. I view them as more relationship building. I think when I was starting out, like, I just wanted to be involved or be in the mix and just be considered for jobs like this. And for me, the way that I viewed it was like, all right, well, no one is going to come find you. Like, at a certain level, sure, like if you've worked with XYZ, like if you've toured with Jay-Z and Beyonce, whatever, like people will know who you are and they will come find you, you know what I mean? But until you get to that point, like, you really need to put yourself out there. You need to put yourself outside of your comfort zone, and you need to meet people. Like, you really just need to meet business owners. You need to meet other creatives. You need to meet producers, publicists, whatever it is. Like, you really need to just talk to as many people as you can and let them know, like, hey, I make videos for a living. Hey, I make photos for a living, whatever. I make commercials, whatever it is, because that's the only way that you're going to get hired and be able to make this a long lasting career path. There's so many people that Quinn and I know who maybe did this for a year or two and then they just got burnt out, or they were doing everything for free, or they weren't getting anything for work and they weren't able to make money off of this and have a long-lasting career. Because at the end of the day, like, this boils down to making it's a business, and you need to make money off of it.
Right.
And that's just the way the world works. So when it comes to networking and relationship building, like, make sure you're meeting other people like Quinn and meeting other people like me and other creatives, other videographers, photographers, because those are the people that you're going to get work from. Like, I've brought on Quinn onto so many projects where I need an editor or an extra shooter just because I trust her and I know that her quality of work is very high. So without a support system or just a network of other creatives, like, it's just going to be a lot more difficult for you to make it out in this. And I think another thing to consider is, like, think about where you live in the world. Let's say you live I always use Oklahoma as an example. No offense to anyone in Oklahoma, but that's just like in the middle of nowhere, in my opinion. I live in LA. Quinn lives in New York. We're both back and forth, like, traveling for work all the time. So I couldn't envision having a sustainable career in, like, Oklahoma in this. But if you do live in Oklahoma, I'm sure there's various opportunities to do, like, sports, corporate stuff, but regardless of that, you still need to connect with other people, and that can also be virtual. Like we are literally virtually talking right now. So just because you may not know people in your home city or state who are doing something similar to you, there are other people who are like-minded who exist in the world. You just need to go and find them, and that could be like as simple as going on Instagram.
I think everyone knows about networking and the importance, but what would you say is like a tangible networking tip for someone? Like, what's something someone could do right now and actually help them move forward?
Instagram has always been such a useful tool. I know social media can have a lot of positive and negatives, but for me, I've always used it as a tool to connect a bridge between people that I am trying to work with. So when I was first starting out, a lot of my networking or relationship building just happened on Instagram, whether that would just be like a cold DM, just offering my services, offering to be of help. I think if you view networking as more of you giving instead of taking, I think that's where you'll find a lot of success. So for example, when I was starting out, I would send a DM to like an influencer here in LA and just be like, hey, like I love your work or I love your style. Like, can I come shoot content for you for free to use? That way, I was able to build a relationship with them and was able to build a portfolio as well. And I've been able to, like a lot of these relationships when I was first starting out, they developed into not only friendships with that individual human, but they've also recommended me for other jobs and other opportunities that are paid. So something tangible that you can do, just start reaching out to people in your community. If you live in a bigger city or a smaller city, just reach out to people that you may want to work with, or an industry that you may want to fall into, and just kind of offer what you can do for free. Don't have any expectations, because I think that's the biggest return on your investment that you'll get. But what do you think, Quinn?
I fully agree. I think the mindset of like, what can I do to help rather than what can you give me is always top tier. That's the way to approach it with everything. I think if you're not able to do that, a good option is to know that people who are like in higher successful positions, they do love to help, like hopefully most of them, and they do love to give advice to people because that's how they got to that level, I'm assuming. Most people are. So like a great idea would be to DM someone and send them some of your work and be like, hey, like I'm just starting out. I would genuinely love any like criticism or feedback on this because I really admire your work and would love some tips on how I can improve this video. If you go specific like that, rather than like, hey, I love your work. Can you help me learn? Like to me, those two types of DMs are very different. And show how genuinely you want to like learn from that person and like how much you admire them. So be careful of how you actually word things and approach things, and be considerate of that person's time as well. So keep those things in mind when you're cold DMing people.
And I think don't get offended if someone doesn't reply to you. If you send Quinn or I a video, like I don't want to speak for Quinn. I try to respond to everyone, but like, sometimes I'm just busy, sometimes we're just like shooting or have a deadline and it's like we may forget to respond or we just don't see the DM. So like don't expect just because you reach out to someone and it's like, hey, can you tell me what I can do differently on this video? Like you may not always get a response or it may take some time. So also just have patience.
Yeah.
Tip number one,
you may get ghosted.
Yeah, you may get ghosted. But yeah, tip number one, patience. But someone will get back to you, and whoever does get back to you, that's like what's meant to be. I'm a big believer of like people come into your life because they're supposed to be in your life, and if someone doesn't respond, don't take it personally. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with them. It could just been one of those things where they didn't have time to. But great advice, Quinn.
Yeah, great advice. And also like I think it's important to connect with people who are at your level too, and collaborate with them and like build something with them, because it can get very lonesome to be a freelancer and just kind of be on your own and trying to figure it out yourself. So if you see someone who's like starting out at the same level as you, don't be closed off to like building something with them or collaborating on a video or just chatting.
We had 5 points that we wanted to cover in this, but I think that's a great bonus tip concept for you. This is such a lonely career path. Like you're literally alone probably 90% of the time, unless you're like, once you're on a shoot or whatever, like you're with people, right? But like other than that, like you're always going to be alone. Like I know Quinn, like we both work from home. We edit, like, yeah, we may be talking because we have to work together, but like, we're not going into an office. We don't have coworkers, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
we're literally just at home alone. If you have to travel for work, you're in the Uber alone, you're in the hotel alone, you're on the flight alone, and then you work together with like a person for 1 or 2 days, and then you're out, and then you're alone all the time. So you have to be really comfortable with being by yourself a lot of the time, because otherwise it's
Very
a struggle. Yeah. Or you can have your kittens by your side, that could also be a thing.
Wait.
There it is.
And then the final note being gear. Do we need it, especially when starting out? Like, you're always seeing these fancy ass rigs on Instagram. How important would you say, Saul, is gear when you're starting out?
I'm not going to sit here and lie and be like, gear doesn't matter or whatever, because at a certain point, it will. Like, if you want to do certain projects, like, you 100% are going to need like an RE or a red or like whatever, but I'm not even shooting on REs or reds, you know what I mean? So like, there will be projects or levels that you will need stuff like that. But if you're just starting out, like, you're deciding what your first camera should be. Like, for me, my first camera was a Canon Rebel EOS SL1 that was like $300 on Amazon with like a kit lens that was 18 to 55 millimeters, like f5.6 or something like that. But I beat that camera to the ground. Like, I literally had that for like a year. I learned everything on that. Like, I learned how to shoot in slow motion, how to make videos, how to take photos. And it was like not great, but before I upgraded to my next camera, like, I used the bare minimum of what I could afford at the time just to learn everything that I could. So I think I always try to try to nail this point home. Just be like, don't worry about having the nicest camera or having a camera like Quinn has or that I have, but we've been doing this for 5 years and we make a living off of this. If you're in college or you don't have a lot of money, like, just, I'm sure everyone has one of these, an iPhone. And if you don't have an iPhone, I'm sure you have an Android, which arguably has a better camera than an iPhone. So you can make videos and make content off of your phone. Like, people are literally, I got offered a role to be a behind the scenes videographer for a TV show only shooting on my iPhone. So people are making careers off of it. You don't need the nicest cameras anymore. My take has always been, what you can afford, go for it. But at a certain point, you will have to understand that you do need better gear, obviously. But there's so many different paths within this.
I would say prioritize the content over the gear first. And as you're creating, save up money and invest in like a nice camera. Because at the end of the day, when someone wants to give you a job or reference you, they are going to consider, like, is the quality up to par with the client that I'm giving the reference to. But when you're starting out, you shoot on your phone. Like, you can make really cool shit on your phone. So
we literally just shot 3 concerts in LA for Alicia Keys only on iPhone because the venues wouldn't allow anything else. So
yeah, and those were specific also requests from the team, was to shoot on iPhone. Right. So it's like people are leaning towards that nowadays.
Exactly.
In this new social media era.
Yeah, just kind of goes. I don't know.
Shoot away.
It's an interesting industry, always evolving, always changing. You kind of keep gotta keep up with the times. You know what I mean? Like,
gotta evolve.
There's no one solution fits all. If you want to buy a red one day, like, you're gonna run into problems because whatever, like, you're not gonna be able to bring that everywhere, or like, your batteries run out every 15 minutes and you need to have like a ton of batteries. So there's pros and cons to everything, obviously.
Truth.
Thanks. Great insight. All right, cool. Fire. That was great. I don't know. That was awesome. I think that was good.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've been going for 30 minutes. Our intention was to have this be 10 to 15 minutes, but if you made it this far, thank you so much. Like, you guys are great. Thanks for sticking around, and I hope you learned something, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Hope so. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're not blabbing.
Yeah.
Not blabbing too much.
We might be, blabbing a little bit, but whatever. It is what it is. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for tuning in to this first episode, Behind the Lens Shorts. How to get started as a videographer, photographer, creative, things we wish we knew when we were younger. Quinn, any closing remarks?
Have fun as you start out on your journey.
Fire. Love that.
Okay, so I think that's it for this episode. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two. We appreciate you tuning in.
episode 1 Behind the Lens shorts in the books. This will be a monthly series moving forward where we'll talk all things freelancing, videography, photography. If you have any questions, if you want to interact with us, questions, comments, concerns, feel free to DM us on Instagram. We reply to every single person. Our Instagrams are linked in the description below. Thank you again for watching. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Peace. All right, so now I am cutting over.
I might just hit it through. That's on my element. I like dark skins, love a melanin. Talk, pushing the tongue.